Hello, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live early in the day today with the lovely Ellie Leonard. It's just after
Hello.
2. Sorry, we're a bit late. Having all these technical things about trying to figure out if we can do 2 live streams at a time. So if you were watching the Pete Hegseth hearing, I'm sorry we had to cut it off. And we'll bring you recaps of that later on. It was really an interesting hearing. Lots of fireworks, and that guy is one hell of a character. Absolutely fascinating to watch that Secretary of War, as he's now known. But for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about all things Epstein and also his relationship with Mohammed bin Salman, which is really an interesting one. Plus, Ellie's done this remarkable investigation into Michael Wolff and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And we're going to be talking about that. We started doing this just a few days ago when we did the 5 nights, 5 secrets, and we got to secret number 3, and then you had to deal with some things, and I had to deal with some things. Number 4 and 5 never happened. So this is number 4. This is our opportunity to do number 4, Ellie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have allergies, so you're going to notice eyes watering, and maybe I might sneeze or something in the middle of the show. In which case, it's not because I'm sad. I'm really happy to see you.
Okay.
I just
I'm happy to see you too.
we just have a lot of things to get through today.
Oh yeah, so good.
Today was one of those incredible days. Ellie often has this. She has such a great bunch of sources and people in her crowdsource community that share information. And today, you sent me these 2 really interesting photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And they show quite clearly, let's see if you can get these up on the screen with us here. They show Mohammed bin Salman and Jeffrey Epstein. Here's that one, and then there's this one too. Quite joking, quite fun, very close relationship these 2 guys had with each other. That much is pretty well known that they had a close relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about these photos and how you got to them, if you can share that, or what it means for you.
So I'm in several little investigative signal threads, and this came this morning. And when I saw them, I had to clarify. I said, "Do we know for sure that this is MBS, which is what he goes by?" And everybody was like, "Yes, 100%. This is Mohammed bin Salman." And then I was kind of, comparing him to other photos online. But Mohammed bin Salman was the deputy crown prince, possibly at this time. Now he's the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. He's also notoriously known. I mean, he's close with Trump, but he's also notorious for being the person that is assumed to have killed Jamal Khashoggi, the reporter, and which Epstein was friends with him before, and then he discusses the killing in his emails with Steve Bannon in very inappropriate terms. But he was very.
Why was it inappropriate terms? What was going on that made it inappropriate? Do you know?
Well, the wording he used for the death of Jamal Khashoggi, I won't repeat here, but it was not nice, and it wasn't that he was saying it was good or bad. It was just very crass. I will say that.
I mean, it was a very gruesome murder, of course.
Very.
And MBS was, of course, a big part of that. I mean, he was not shirking his responsibility, although he never admitted responsibility. He landed up taking some of that by offering lots and lots of money to the family of Khashoggi. Now, the other interesting thing about Jeffrey Epstein and Khashoggi is that he knew Adnan Khashoggi, who was Jamal Khashoggi's uncle, way back in the 80s when all of this started. So the history going back to Saudi Arabia and Epstein is long. And they were in fact, many people say that Adnan Khashoggi trained Jeffrey Epstein in some of the finer arts of criminal money laundering and other things. So it's not surprising that he has a close relationship with MBS. It is surprising that there is this kind of cross current of Jamal Khashoggi's death, and I'm not sure that Jeffrey Epstein knew Jamal or had any relationship with Jamal. But I mean, that would have been an interesting and difficult thing to deal with. Now, all of this happens today, and I open the New York Times, and lo and behold, there's a story all about Epstein getting a lot of stuff from the holiest mosque in Islam, and he's able to do this, and then he brings it to his little St. James Island, where he builds this structure, which many people have had many questions about because no one's really understood what this is. Some people have thought it was like a child sacrifice thing. Other people have called it a temple. Some people have said it's got Kabbalah, things in it. But really, it is actually a tribute in some ways to mosque architecture. And that's not to say that Epstein, who was Jewish, was a Muslim in any way, but because it ties to MBS, his appreciation for Muslim architecture and Muslim artifacts, it was in fact quite big. And so this New York Times article today goes through some of that and talks about the island mosque and how it got tapestries that came from Mecca. Mecca, of course, in Saudi Arabia. So, the only way you would get those kind of tapestries is if you had some contacts. And of course, lo and behold, we know now that he has these contacts with MBS. I'm going to roll through this article here just because it's kind of interesting just to talk about the tapestries embroidered with the Quranic verses were shipped from the Kaaba in Mecca, Islam's holiest shrine. Tiles came from the mosques in Uzbekistan. A golden metal dome was made to replicate the architecture of ancient Syria. Jeffrey Epstein spent years making connections across the Middle East in pursuit of business deals and two intertwined hobbies: acquiring rare Islamic artifacts with which to decorate an unusual building on his private island and expanding his network of wealthy, powerful people. Through connections that extended into the royal court of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Epstein secured a meeting with Mohammed bin Salman, now the Saudi crown prince, and also obtained elaborate tapestries that once adorned the sacred spaces inside the Kaaba and covered the exterior walls. Mr. Epstein's dual passions were encapsulated in a single photo from 2014. In it, he poses with the Sultan Bin Sulayem, a prominent Emirati executive, which we've been speaking about before. Now, he's the guy who was fired from his job at DP World for his association with Epstein and was a really close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. He has that photo they're talking about with one of these tapestries. If you scroll down, and we won't read the whole article, there's the actual mosque from a different perspective. There it is about making the mosque and some stuff around that and how it's reminiscent of some of this other architecture. But we do finally get here to a photograph that is hard to re-see, but it looks like MBS and Epstein on the desk or on a side table there at MBS's office. And it's supposedly of the Saudi crown prince. And that photo appears, as you point out, to look a lot like the two that you've just shared with us. So it's either one of these.
I'm pretty sure it's the same. That one. Yeah, I think it's the first one.
Now, that's remarkable. I mean, it's just a kismet kind of thing to have those two things happen in one day, but it does highlight what a close relationship these guys had.
Yeah, and this was in a text message thread in the files that I received from the group chat that I'm in, and credit to them. I did not find this myself, but this was I'm trying to remember who the text message thread was with, if it was Steve Bannon or somebody else, but that's why you see the timestamp on the left-hand side. But as far as the mosque goes, I believe, I'm trying to think if it was January or maybe December, we received a batch of the files from the DOJ. So I think it was in December, actually, that was mostly photographs of inside of Epstein's properties. And there is a batch that's the inside of that mosque. And the interesting thing about Epstein, and I think a lot of people in his network would tell you this, is it was very clear he didn't come from money, even though he was very, very wealthy. And his taste in how he placed art around his properties was very, very poor. He just bought things because they were expensive or they connected him to somebody. So in this case, this would have connected him to the Saudis to have things from Mecca, but he didn't really know how to design a mosque or design a facility that had any meaning. And you get this the most from the inside of his New York mansion. that I think
Yeah.
is hideous. Like the downstairs looks like a community college. Like he just didn't know what he was doing. He just bought things that cost a lot of money. His taste in art was really, really bad. And if you talk to some of the different like art docents that he worked with, they all said he had zero taste. But I think if I remember correctly, the inside of the mosque is not set up to be a mosque at all. It's just kind of like a facility or like a meeting place. He had lots of things with like big tables where he would just meet with people. And, you know, you see inside the island, he has that area with the chalkboard where they would all collaborate and write weird things on the chalkboard. And this was kind of one of those places, but it would be important for him to have the best of the best and the most meaningful artwork having to do with that mosque idea in order to impress somebody like MBS or the Sultan or somebody else, because constantly the first thing on his mind was being this sort of chameleon for different groups of people to where he could fit in, look like he knew what he was talking about, you know, shower them with the wealth that they're familiar with, and then add them to his Rolodex as a close friend, and they go home. So I feel like the mosque was that for him. I don't think there was any sort of, for him at least, I don't think there was any religious connection to it, but it was definitely to be on display for these wealthy Saudis.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think I read somewhere a while ago that he had a piano in there for a period
Mm-hmm.
of time. He was a pianist, and
I can find some of these
and maybe
photos.
he used to play piano in there too. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
interesting. This piece also talks about Mr. Rod Larson, who two photos of himself joking around with Mohammed, one of which he would later display in his New York home. So he took that picture, Rod Larson. Rod Larson turns out to be another figure in the Oslo Accord, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the right guy?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I thinking of Jagland? I don't know. I'm getting
I'm,
them confused. But it's so interesting to see that come up. I don't think he was a devout anything. I think he was
no.
mostly, Jewish, but I don't think he practiced any religion devoutly, and I don't think he
Yeah, he was
considered
secular.
himself a Muslim. But he had really close ties to MBS, and that is not just borne out by these photos. That is borne out by a lot of investigative work, some of which Kate Justice has been doing recently about his ties with the idea of creating a cryptocurrency-based Middle East sort of banking system. And that is, in fact, what he had been pitching Mohammed bin Salman as well. He was also pitching him on the idea of running the sovereign wealth fund, because at one point, and this is coming from this article again, Aramco, let me see if I can find it here, which is the big oil producing company of Saudi Arabia, was going to go public and was going to make a fortune. I think it maybe did go public at the end, but it was going to make a fortune. And I think Epstein fancied himself an opportunity there to become the advisor to Aramco as it became public, which would have been hugely profitable for him. But the truth of it is, that he was advising MBS on many things, financially and in terms of the structure and in the modernization of Saudi Arabia. I can't find that actual reference in here, but you'll have to trust me that he was part of that Aramco thing. And to me, it's not surprising that they're all there together, but it's telling, I guess. The original idea to create cryptocurrency as a mechanism for to take on America, that we're going to create this whole new challenge to the American banking system, based out of Russia. He pitched Putin this idea of, you're going to be able to take over America by creating a new version of the banking system that will be digital, that will be run on a blockchain, that will have all the hallmarks of what we now know as crypto. And it was going to compete against this, Victorian era banking system that the West still operates on. And that's why he's so tied in with the crypto world. But that same idea that he originally did with Russia, he also took to MBS. And that's part of their deepened relationship in terms of, how they got to from where they are back then to being so closely associated with Epstein. in these files, and Kate's got some interesting information about that. But everyone needs to really take a deep look at this relationship, because we've had ties to Israel, we've had ties to Russia. There's also obviously ties to Saudi Arabia, which makes him kind of a multinational kind of guy.
He called crypto, because it took him a minute to be sold on it, he called it deplore rubles, like deplorables, but deplore rubles is what he called crypto originally. But he was actually going, and if you look in the Michael Wolff emails, he was going to Harvard to these crypto meetings where they were talking about it and making plans. It was like AI summits and crypto stuff. But he once he discovered that it was sort of the next generation of money, he was all in.
Yeah, I think his relationship with crypto is critical to understanding his relationship with the Trump regime, because at the end of the day, this administration is running on crypto. It's funded largely by crypto. Its chief commerce guy Howard Lutnick is completely owned by Tether, a stablecoin company. There is so much crypto, and all the Donald Trump companies that are being spawned by his kids. They're all crypto. And there's a connection there directly to Epstein, which people sort of shrug at, but the truth of it is, there's no ways. I don't think that that's a coincidence. I mean, it just feels like, Jeffrey Epstein's interest in crypto, Howard Lutnick's interest in crypto as neighbors is one thing. Donald Trump's as best friend. There's just a lot of smoke sometimes you can't ignore.
And he was always intent on being a part of whatever the next wave was. And so you see that kind of toward the end of his life, as he was really latching on to the tech bro world and the crypto world and the AI world. He was very fascinated with AI. He wanted to fund it and be a part of it. And so you see him latching on to all those things that he, with AI rightfully knew was the next generation of technology, and he wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, he did always seem to be on top of the right things, for better or for worse. That's was one of his better skills, was identifying those next big things. But he also had these connections to powerful leaders, and was able to get things done that other people could not. And I don't know, the other picture that I've seen of MBS that looks a lot like that is with that other guy who was involved with the Epstein scandal and the Trump administration, who was arrested for child porn as well. His name will come to me, I'm sure.
Jean-Luc?
No, he was another dude from the Middle East. He was a Lebanese guy. Worked for Bibi Netanyahu.
I can't think of his name either, but I know who you're
It'll come, or maybe someone in the chat can tell me. But that's I've seen that same picture almost exactly, with the two of them hugging, and it just I don't think that the morality laws or ideas that we have here in the West carry much weight.
Well, the bomb just doesn't apply to money and power, no matter what country, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. Probably applies to some people, but not all people. I'm trying to find those Epstein Michael Wolff emails, and here they are. Good. Okay, I got them finally. Because as you point out, Ellie's been doing some incredible reporting about Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein's relationship, which is so fascinating. It runs, it was well over 10 years we discovered last time, right? How many years do you think it was that they were friends?
Well, it was at least 2000, probably 1 or 2 through the end of Epstein's life. So almost 20.
Wow.
We have emails for 10 of those years.
Which you've transcribed and read all of them, which is amazing, a phenomenon on its own. And so a lot of that does actually deal with MBS's interest in Saudi Arabia and Michael Wolff's interest in Saudi Arabia.